What's up, guys? I am going to profile my Horus Chimera deck. I've actually been doing a lot better with this than I thought I would. I pretty much just shot right out of Platinum, and I've been consistently climbing in Diamond with this deck. I'm all the way up to Diamond 2 with it right now. This deck, this deck just has the gas to do whatever you want, pretty much. So we're going to go over it, then I'm going to go over a couple replays and talk about kind of how the deck works and why you want to do certain things. Maxx, definitely running 3 copies. It's just too good. Definitely running 3 Ash Blossoms because one, my opponent is probably running Maxx, and two, Ash also helps you stop your opponent from adding cards that could be key combo pieces that they need, so they might not get as much advantage that way. We're running 1 Barrier Statue of the Abyss. This card's great because if you're playing against Snake Eyes and they don't have the out for it, you're pretty much just going to win the game. I've had one game where they summoned Snake Eyes Poplar, and I ended up using the Imperm to stop them from adding the 1 card to out this, and they pretty much just scooped right there. Next, we have 2 Edge Imp Chain. I don't like running 3. I know a lot of people say running 2, a lot of the time that'll make one of the patchworks dead. You don't have to worry about the patchworks being dead, because if the patchwork is dead in hand, you can just pitch it for King Sarcophagus later. But Edge Imp Chain, definitely want to run 2. I feel like 3 chains, 3 poly, and 3 patchwork is way too cloggy. 3 Gazelle. Gazelle, the King of Mythical Claws, is great. When he's normal or special, you can add a level 5 Fiend monster or a Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. Your level 5 Fiend monster you're typically going to go for is Big-Winged Berfomet. But a lot of the time, I'm just using him to add the Chimera Fusion or for his second effect. His second effect is if he's sent to the field, sent to the graveyard, sorry, not from to the field. If he's sent to the graveyard as a fusion material from your hand, from the field, whatever, you can add 1 illusion monster from your deck to your hand, and you only use each effect of Gazelle once per turn, and it is a hard once per turn. And so most of the time when I'm adding an illusion monster, it's going to be Mirror Swordknight, and we'll get to why in just a moment. Next we have Cornfield Coatl. This card is actually very decent. If it battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle. You can only use each of the following effects of Cornfield Coatl once per turn, so you can discard this card and add 1 monster that mentions Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand, which means you're going to have him as a target. You're going to have, I believe you have him as a target, yeah. You have Sword Knight as a target, which is what you go for most of the time, and you have Berfomet, Big-Winged Berfomet as a target. Being able to get to any of your combo pieces with this is really good. And you can't add himself, otherwise that would be cracked. You would just basically cycle your deck just like insanely. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets cards you control while you control a Chimera the Mythical Flying Beast, quick effect, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard, negate the effect, and if you do, destroy that card. This is awesome, and we'll get into that in a little bit. Next, we have Mirror Swordknight, and the reason we always want to add Mirror Swordknight is because of his quick effect. But first, if he battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by that battle. That's cool, I guess. You can only use each of the following effects of Mirror Swordknight once per turn. Quick effect, tribute this card, special summon 1 monster from your deck that mentions Chimera Fusion except Mirror Swordknight. 90% of the time, you're going to be summoning Big Wing off of that. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn, so we covered the tribute, special summon a monster. And then the next effect is when a monster your opponent controls activates its effect, and you control a Chimera the Mythical Flying Beast, you can banish this card from your field or graveyard and negate the effect. That is insane, and you're going to see why in a lot of the replays. Next, I have 2 big wings. I'm not running 3 because I felt 3 was cloggy. Sometimes I'm tempted to run 3, but it's not necessary. You can if you feel like you need it. If it's normal or special, you can add 1 level 4 beast monster and or 1 Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except fusion monsters. That basically means if you plan on using XYZs, you have to do them before you do the Big-Winged Berfomet effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard as material for a fusion summon, you can target an illusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You can only use each of the Big-Winged Berfomet's effect once per turn, and that's a hard once per turn. Now, that second effect, where it lets you special summon an illusion monster from your grave, a lot of the time I'll get back Swordknight, and then during their standby phase, I'll use Swordknight to bring out another Big-Wing, and use the second Big-Wing effect to gain advantage for next turn. And that way, Swordknight will also be back in my graveyard, and the negate will be live again. But these two cards, very, very good. Next, we have the Horus package that you've probably seen running around Master Duel right now. We have Imsety, Glory of Horus. If you control a King Sarcophagus, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. All the Horus monsters have that effect, at least the ones that we're running. So this guy, and they can all be special summoned only once per turn with that method. If you have the King Sarcophagus, you can special it from your grave. That is a hard once per turn on all of them. So this guy is once per turn. You can only use the following effect of him once per turn. It's a hard once per turn. You can send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, including him. Add a King Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand, then draw 1 card. So this is awesome because a lot of the time I will send Edge Imp Chain, and even if they negate this, I'll still get Chain effect, and then Chain I'll get Patchwork, and then Patchwork I'll get another Chain, and I'll get another Poly. But if they don't negate it, and you get his effect to add this, and draw a card, and you get this, you, for 2 cards, you just got 3 cards, one of which will get you another 2 cards, so it'll be a +1. So basically you can get 4 cards for 2 cards, which is very good. If another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card is in your monster zone, except during the damage step, you can send 1 card in the field to the graveyard. It says send, not destroy. It does front row or back row, and it does not target. Next, we have Duamutef, Blessing of the Horus. He only special 1 per turn with his self-specialing effect. He gains 100, not 100, blah. He gains 1,200 attack and defense for a Horus monster you control. If another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card's in your monster zone, you can draw cards equal to the number of monsters with different names in your main monster zone, which is awesome. You can only use that effect once per turn. And then finally, we have, in my opinion, the best one, Hapi, Guidance of Horus. If another card you control, card or cards, leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card's in your monster zone, you can target 2 cards that are banished or in either graveyard, add both to the hand, or shuffle both into the deck. You can only use this effect to Hapi once per turn. This card is awesome. Next, we had our 2 Polys and our 2 Frightfur Patchwork. For those of you who haven't seen Frightfur Patchwork before, it is add an Edge Imp monster and a Polymerization from your deck to your hand. You can only activate 1 Patchwork per turn. If you get stuck with dead Patchworks in hand, or dead Polys in hand, or dead Edge Imps in hand, King Sarcophagus is going to be your best friend helping you out with that. Horus monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects that do not target them. You can send 1 card from your hand to your graveyard, send 1 Horus monster from your deck to your graveyard. You can only use this effect, King Sarcophagus, up to 4 times per turn, which is kind of insane. Once per turn at the start of the damage step, if your Horus monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send that monster to the graveyard, which also is insane. 2 called by, 1 Crossout, 3 Chimera Fusion. This card is great. During your main phase, you can fusion summon, sorry, not your main phase, during the main phase, your opponent's main phase included, you can set this and use it during their turn. During the main phase, fusion summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a beast or fiend monster. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard and you have Chimera the Flying Beast on the field or in your graveyard, you can activate 1 of these effects. You can add this card to your hand, or you can banish it, and if you do, special summon 1 Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beast, and 1 Berfomet from your deck or graveyard. Not really worth it on that second effect, so I'm not running the 2 in here. But the first effect is great. You can only use this effect of Chimera Fusion once per turn. So the fact that you can recur this by just having a Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast on your field or in your grave is great. You can basically use the same copy twice. And then 3 Infinite Imperm. We are running 41 cards. It has not been an issue. Next, we go to the extra deck. We are running 2 Chimera the King of the Phantom Beast, 1 Beast monster, and 1 Fiend monster. This card's name becomes Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast while on the field or in the graveyard. You can only use each of the following effects of Chimera the King of Phantom Beast once per turn. If he is fusion summoned, you can activate this effect. Send 1 random card from your opponent's hand to the graveyard during the end phase of the turn, which is pretty good. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 beast, fiend, or illusion monster in your graveyard, and special summon it. Also good. Next we have 1 Berfomet, the Mythical King of the Phantom Beast. It is 2 monsters with different types, Beast, Fiend, or Illusion. This card's name becomes Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, while on the field or in the graveyard. You can only use each of the following effects of Berfomet, the Mythical King of Phantom Beast, once per turn. If this card is fusion summoned, you can send 1 Beast, Fiend, or Illusion monster from your deck to the graveyard. Also a good effect. A lot of the time, I'll just send Mirror Swordknight, so I'll have that negate ready. And then its other effect is during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target 1 of your banished Beast, Fiend, or Illusion monsters, except Berfomet, the Mythical King of Phantom Beast, and special summon it. So he can actually help you cycle back Chimera, which is really cool. 1 Predaplant Dragostapelia. It's very easy to make this card in the deck. Having that quick effect negate is great. 1 Chimera the Illusion Beast. So this card's name becomes Chimera the Flying Mythical Beast while in the field or in the graveyard. This card can attack monsters a number of times each battle phase up to the number of materials used for it. So it can be 1 Chimera plus 1 plus illusion monsters. If this card battles a monster, neither can be destroyed by battle, and at the end of the damage step, if it battles an opponent's monster, you can change that opponent's monster to 0 and negate its effects. So this is actually useful in certain situations. I think I have a replay where he was relevant. 1 Magnum the Reliever. This card's just super good for this deck. It's 1 monster special from the extra deck and 1 monster in hand. You can target 1 Polymerization or Fusion spell in your graveyard, and then place that target on the bottom of your deck and draw 1 card, which is awesome. I've actually had this make Frightfur Patchwork live for me again, which is really funny. The other effect, which we'll use more often, is when another card or effect is activated. This is a quick effect. You can banish a Polymerization spell or Fusion spell from your graveyard, target 1 card in the field, and destroy it. You can only use each effect of Magnum the Reliever once per turn. This card is insanely decent. Next, we have 1 Guardian Chimera. A lot of people run 2. I've pretty much only needed 1. I think I've only had 1 situation where I could have used 2. Must first be fusion summoned using only fusion materials from your hand and field with at least 1 monster from each. If this card is fusion summoned by a spell card or effect, you can draw cards equal to the number of cards used as material from the hand, and if you do, destroy cards your opponent controls equal to the number of cards used as material from the field. You can only use this effect of Guardian Chimera once per turn. If you have Polymerization in your graveyard, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. 1 Abyss Dweller. This hasn't really came up yet, but it might at some point. We might get it, but for now I'm keeping it because Tier's been running around again. 1 Coach King Giant Trainer. If you're going first and you need to unclog your hand, it's 3 level 8 monsters. You can detach a material, draw a card, reveal it. If it was a monster, inflict 800 to your opponent. You can't conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. You can only use the effect of Coach King Giant Trainer up to thrice per turn, so you can potentially deal 2400 and you get 3 cards into your hand from it. 1 number 38, Hope Harbinger. Most people probably know what this does by now, but once per turn when a spell or card effect or spell card effect is activated on the field, quick effect, you can negate that effect, and if you do, attach it as material. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can detach 1 material from this card, change the attack target to this card, and perform damage calculation. If another XYZ monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target 1 face of XYZ monster you control. It gains attack equal to 1 of those destroyed monsters' attack. This guy has actually been very useful in a couple of games. One, number 90, Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord. If this card has a photon card as material, it can't be destroyed by card effects. We'll never use that effect because we're not going to play photons because photons are bad. You only use this effect once per turn. So when an opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can detach one, negate that monster's effect. If the detached card was a Galaxy card, destroy that card. We won't use that because Galaxy's bad. During your opponent's turn, you can we're not going to use that either because it's also a photon related effect and photons are bad. Need me some water. Woo. One, just casually dying during my deck profile. One, Dingarasu, the Orcus of the Evening Star. You can only special summon Ding Doodle once per turn. You can also XYZ by using an Orcus Link monster. We won't use that. If a card you control is destroyed by battle or effect, you can detach one from him instead. If it's special summon, you can activate one of these effects. Send one card your opponent controls to the graveyard, or attach one of your banished machine monsters. We won't use that because we're not running machine monsters. But being able to send a card your opponent controls to the grave, pretty useful. One Zeus, it's Zeus, one LP Masquerena, and one SP Little Knight. And that's it for the deck profile. Let's get into the replays. I've just been absolutely killing it with this on the ranked ladder. I have some short replays where I dominate. I have some long replays where I gotta problem solve a little bit. We'll go over each of them. Okay, so here comes Rescue Ace. And it's Rescue Ace Snake Eyes, and we should have activated that way earlier, but we're doing the Maxi now. My opponent's going to take the Maxi challenge, and they're going to end, and we are set. We have just got so much stuff. They don't have the Ash, because they probably would have used it on the Coatl, so we're just going to do the thing. We get Veilered. That really hurts, but we're just going to keep on keeping on. We're just going to get all of our effects, just add to hand, special. Just keep doing things. I have no idea what Rescue Ace does, but we just keep going. Doing the Horus thing, and just getting rid of the extra Edge Imp. It's useless anyway. My opponent tries to do things and realizes they made a mistake, and I'm going to win this turn anyway. So we get the W. The deck is like amazingly consistent with being able to just add advantage to hand. Even if you get ashed, it doesn't set you back that much. So this hand is poo. If we get ashed in this one, we basically lose. Well, we don't, so. I love that I brought it out just so I contribute it, so I could use the effect, so I could then actually start going off. And just tearing through our deck because we're using Foil or Coatl, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going into the Horuses, and we're just going to sit on the board. Unfortunately, we made them discard a tier card, and we're going to have to ash it. Really hurts. They're still going to get to do things because it's tier. Look at all the tier things going on here. We're going to stop the return, but they're still going to fuse, and we're just going to be like, great. Thankfully, we're going to need to add cards back. And we're just going to do things, and we're also going to summon things. Thankfully, we have that Chimera Fusion set. We're going to activate the... We're actually going to go into the one where we can summon banished ones, because he'll be useful in a little bit. And we're going to just keep going off. Building board, playing during our opponent's turn, seeing if they're going to do anything to us. They return cards to our board, to our deck for some reason. That actually kind of helps us. They're putting back the Sarcophagus, whatever. Here comes SP. They can't destroy Coatl, they didn't read. We're not in the best place here. We're going to try to make it out. Thankfully, we top deck Patchwork. And we're just going to go from here. Bam. Bring back the Fusion. Use the Fusion. Play a second Fusion. And then play the Chimera. Unfortunately, that's the best we could do. And we set the Patchwork. It's hilarious that they're just going to be like, yeah, you can have those back right away. We got the Chimera back, which means we can get Chimera Fusion back. And we have Coatl, so we can negate the target. And at this point, we're just going to go off. Because they put stuff back, Frightfur Fusion's active again. Or not Frightfur Fusion, Frightfur Patchwork's active again. So, thankfully, we squeaked that one out. That was a little bit more difficult. But so far, I've showed you beating Rescue Ace and beating Tier. Chimera can contend with the bigger decks in the format. They do have that one Illusion Magician card you can run as well. I just thought it was too bricky. No fear slamming the Illusion Knight down because we have the called by. We're just going to do things. We're just going to let our opponent look at the board we've built. We're going to stop the tour guide. They're going to call by. It's unfortunate. And so we're going to go into Chimera, because when we go into Chimera, they're going to have summoned whatever they're going to summon with tour guide. And now we can destroy it, and we get our Illusion Knight back. We called by the grave the Rhino, and then we use the Sword Knight to summon Big Wing. And we're going to get the Big Wing effect now. At that point, my opponent's like, yeah, no, I give. Just insane amount of advantage during your opponent's turn. The deck can do so much just because of the mixture of the engines works so well. Anything that's dead or just the extra Chimera cards you have in hand, you can use for Horus. You can even add the Fusion back to hand to do more Horus shenanigans. It's so decent. We immediately want to try to get to Illusion or Mirror Swordknight. We get Mirror Swordknight. We get the Big Wing. Our combo is now live. Here's the Guardian Chimera. And then we just get all the effects. They negate him, but, you know, it's okay. We're in an amazing position at this point. Like, what are they going to do? We have 2 Imperms. We're going to get something off that advantage-wise. And then we're going to have a live... Well, actually, no, the negate wouldn't be live, but... At that point, we're just out-resourcing them too quickly. This deck basically is playing the resource game. And I kind of like it. So here's an example of me going second. Thankfully, we had the Maxx. Just Ecclesia, Maxi, they're gonna call by, and we're gonna be like, oh no. I remember this matchup. This one was funny. This person did not know how to play Sword Soul. And there's the Baron, and I'm just like, oh man, how am I gonna get out of this? The answer is they're going to negate that, which I actually didn't care about. I actually just wanted the patchwork. And at that point they give up because I don't know. I might have won that, but they also could have won that. But I had a hand that was just ready to go, and I'm really happy about that. But yeah, that's it for the deck profile. Let me know down below if you like it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.